Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
Good morning. I assume that you can all hear me. Wonderful. Good morning, beloveds. It is an absolute pleasure to be back here today. As Sina mentioned, today is the very first day of August. And so as we usher in this new month, I'm going to release the mic so that we can play our opening song and greet one another on the board. All right, thank you so much for that opening song there. And if you'll join me now for a quick prayer. All right, as so happens each and every time I am preparing to come on and speak, there's this energy, there's this excited, anxious feeling that overtakes me for at least 30 minutes. And so I come forward today as humbled and as grateful, with a lot of gratitude in my heart, to first of all give thanks for this opportunity to share in this way, to share in my experience, in my evolution, about this evolution, this life, this experience. I'm grateful for everyone who shows up, whether it's live or in a recording later, to continue on their own journey to awakening. I ask that the presence that is always here, always surrounding us, supporting us, loving us, and caring for us, that presence would lead the way in this gathering in such a way that this person's desires, needs, or wants are completely set aside for a time. I give thanks for everything, and so it is, and so I let it be. Amen. All right. So I want to talk first about today's gathering. The title of today's gathering is The Power of Non-Judgment. All right. My reader for today is Helena Monteiro, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. What I've found is that as you progress on this spiritual path, you become more willing to allow the uncertainties of life, right? The need to control, the need to have things exactly as so that you're comfortable, that begins to subside a bit. And I've been observing that for sure in my own life. And when it came down time to select a reader to read, and the reading today will come from NTI, Luke chapter 6, verse 1 through 11. And Helena, I'm going to ask that you continue through verse 42 instead of stopping at 38 there. I did cut off one of the last verse in error. So as I was preparing to select a reader for today, the need to step into that uncertainty more became I felt it very strongly. So I didn't want to use the normal people that I go to read for me. Instead, Sina pointed me in the direction of our forum, because there we have plenty of people who have volunteered to become readers. And so that's what I did. I went to the forum and I went with the person I was guided to go with. So I've never met Helena. She is an Awakening Together member, and I'm definitely looking forward to her reading and seeing her today. So Helena, I'm going to release this mic to you and ask you to read for us from NTI Luke chapter 6.
Hi, thanks, Gloria. Okay. Verses 1 to 11. Judgment is a way of looking at the world and deciding what is good and what is bad, or what is right and what is wrong. You have been taught within the world how to exercise your judgment so that it is good judgment. For even judgment itself can be good or bad, right or wrong. Now I ask that you forget everything you have been taught and everything you have learned. For if you know nothing, you cannot judge. Any judgment that you make and accept as a belief in your mind is a mistake. For any judgment that you make assumes something within illusion is real, and within its realness, something is better or more valuable than something else. Judgment accepts as real and then separates. So all judgment must be of the ego. Look at Jesus and at the Pharisees within these scriptures. Surely you notice that the Pharisees have learned rules on which they feel they can judge. But the Pharisees are only a symbol of what is within your mind. For you also have learned rules on which you believe you can judge. Did you judge the Pharisees as you read these stories? On what rule did you base that judgment? Is there a belief in your mind that Jesus is more real or more truth than the Pharisees? Did you think that the Pharisees were wrong to judge Jesus? Nothing in the world is more real than anything else. This is why you know nothing and cannot judge. Your conscious experience is only of the world. So you cannot know truth, which is not of the world. This is why I have come to you. I know truth, and I know the world that you believe and hold dear. I can lead you from the world to the truth if you will trust and follow me. To trust and follow me, make no judgments along the way. Be as a little child, wide-eyed and curious, enjoying all that you seem to experience. Trust me to make your judgments for you. And now I go to verses 27. It is within the world that you seem to be. So it is within the world that I come to lead you. But I ask you to look at the world differently now. No longer accept that there is a you and a them who is separate from you. This is the view the ego has of the world. My view is that the world is all one song with different notes played in harmony to create the one. It is the song that is cherished, not the notes. And the song is being played perfectly by me, who is the director of the music. If you look at the song from my point of view, you see its beauty and perfection. But if you look at the song from the point of view of one note, who believes it is separate and competing with other notes, the song seems to be a war filled with attack and grievance and worry. Remember that you are not the note. That is a distorted view of the music. We are the song as one sound together. Love the entire song. Every aspect is equally important to the whole. Every aspect valuable and cherished for its part in it. Share the perspective of the song by seeing yourself as the song and by loving the entire song, just as it is, without judgment or desire that the song should be played differently. Everything that you see and experience, you see and experience through the filter of your mind. There can be no exception. This is always true. This is why you can see or experience something in one way and have one opinion or belief about it, and another one can seem to see or experience it in another way and have another opinion or belief. All of this seeing is occurring through the ego mind, which does not see at all. It interprets. The ego mind is itself a seeming split, apart from the Christ mind, which is one. Since the ego mind is a split or fraction, its perspective or viewpoint is not whole. Since it is not whole, it is not knowledge, which is why it interprets. But the ego mind is not aware that it interprets. It believes it knows. This is why ego minds seem to conflict. This is why ego minds seem to conflict. Each one merely interprets without knowledge, but mistakes its interpretation for knowledge. Knowledge cannot conflict, for it is whole. Interpretation cannot conflict, since it is not knowledge. It can only seem to conflict, but that is a conflict of illusions or unreality, which is no conflict at all. Everything you see and experience, you see and experience through the filter of your own mind. In order to find peace, one must abandon interpretation and remember knowledge. This is the process of learning that I lead you through. You are learning that you do not know, you interpret. This enables you to step back from conflict and knowing that your interpretation is nothing. Let your interpretation go. As interpretation is released, knowledge can be given. Knowledge is peace, since knowledge has no conflict, because it is whole and it is truth. Everything you see and experience, you see and experience through the filter of your own mind. This is good news, for what you see and experience witnesses to the interpretation that you believe is knowledge. Upon seeing it and knowing that it is not knowledge, because it is not peace, you can choose to step back and let your false interpretation go. You may see your brother's error, which is which is his false interpretation that he mistakes for knowledge. I tell you that as long as you believe your interpretation, you do not have knowledge. Therefore, you cannot lead your brother to let go of his interpretation, for only knowledge can see clearly to lead mistakes to healing. Whatever you see in your brother, bring back to your interpretation, that you may give it up and be healed. Thank you, Gloria.
That was perfectly read. Thank you very, very much, Helena. I appreciate you stepping up to the plate. I appreciate you agreeing to be a volunteer on our forum, and I hope that we can hear from you again in the near future. All right, so I want to read our core value. I want to read from our core value here before I get into the message for today. I have selected core value number 3. We accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without a beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. All right, so as I mentioned, I've been looking at non-judgment here, and that's absolutely what's up for me in terms of learning, and seeing as well. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So in getting ready and preparing for this particular talk, I've been thinking back on my journey here at Awakening Together, right? I've been with Awakening Together, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years. I know certainly I was here when we originally, I think when we were made a church. So I've been around, I've seen, I've worked on a couple of committees, done a couple of things. I'm still a speaker here, but that's really not the part that I was reflecting on. The part that I was reflecting on was the journey, my life actually, during this 9-10 year period, the changes that have taken place in my life, right? Literally dark night of the soul, no doubt about it. A few of those years, seriously, there's no way it wasn't. They talk about there's 2 ways that you awaken. Either it's through purification or chaos, I should say. We call it purification. That's the label that we place on it. But it really does boil down to something major, shifting you at the core. That you literally had to maybe rethink life altogether. That could be a loss of a loved one, an illness, all kinds of ways that we can go about purification. The other is spontaneous, just waking up. Byron Katie, for instance, comes to mind. Michael Singer comes to mind. People who have literally reported that, hey, I was just sitting here doing nothing and I just looked up and I'm woke. That type of awakening is possible. But so many of us go through that awakening where there's this chaotic period in life. And what I'm saying here is that has absolutely been my experience since I've been part of Awakening Together. I've reflected back on when I originally came on with Awakening Together, being in the classes, taking the MPP classes. I was extremely nervous in my first classes, extremely uptight about talking in front of people, expressing my feelings in front of people, people who didn't necessarily look like me. So that was, that took a lot of healing and processing of things to get me to a point where I was more comfortable. Then I thought about how Awakening Together has evolved, how we were audio first. You know, ministers used to deliver talks audibly. There was no video. And then about a couple of years ago, we went to video. And I know for a fact that's divine, the divine working in my favor there. There's no way for me, I would have been able to come out on day one and jump on a camera, right? I had to overcome and work through a lot of those internal limitations that I had built up over the years. Okay, so that whole evolution of going from audio to now visual allowed me to develop my own internal trust for Holy Spirit. Right? When I first started talking, I would take notes and I would have to refer to those notes. And you know, I'd say things to myself like, well, you know, the knowledge is coming through me. It's just I didn't trust myself enough to deliver that knowledge without those notes in front of me. So what I'm saying is I needed that space of audio. I needed that so that I could grow more and get to a place where I could trust that whatever's here is going to come forth in the exact way that it should come forth, and that it didn't need my interaction or my corrections and edits to make it happen. It just happened. And so I thought about that. And then what I thought about the most was, like I said, during those really rough years, how did I continue to speak? I continued to show up. I continued on. And that part is not necessarily was in my character before. Like if I felt overcame, I would just back off and run away and go hide somewhere. But what I want to share with you today is that one of the reasons that I know that I was able to, number one, stick with the program, continue to show up here, continue to act in whatever role or play whatever role is being given me to play in the moment, even though my life wasn't reflecting all of the truths and all of the things that I was learning. I've learned about different religions, about Buddhism, and about Nisargadatta's work. So many perfect divine truths that are absolutely in action. They're real. And so, but they weren't fully being manifested in my life. So for me to continue to show up in that way, even though I didn't see the manifestation the way I was hearing about it, the way I was learning about it, I knew it was still my path or my thing to keep going, to stay with it. And so what I want to say is that one of the reasons, the hugest reason I believe in what this talk is grounded in, is the non-judgmental attitude or atmosphere that is here at Awakening Together. If this were an atmosphere where I was being judged because I wasn't speaking right or looking right or doing right, if I had experienced that level of judgment, there's no way I could have carried on and continued on to get to a place where I'm beginning to experience the levels, right? There are levels to awakening. And as something falls off, it's like you look up and the whole level is gone. You know, it's really is quite miraculous. But that non-judgment that was present for me allowed me to strengthen, all right, and to continue to evolve. And so I've seen other aspects of non-judgment play out recently, now that I began looking at that whole non-judgment topic. Other things not surrounding non-judgment began to show up. So I'll tell you a story of someone named Jesse. All right. Jesse was had a lot of mental things going on, a lot of mental things, had never a lot of mental trauma from childhood, just a lot of emotional trauma. And so Jesse had never really experienced a life where he could totally talk to someone and express how he's dealing with life and what he's going through. So when the time came for Jesse to finally be able to talk to someone, finally be able to get that out, and we're talking therapy, talk therapy, and this type of thing, finally being able to get that out and be heard by someone at a non-judgmental level, the shifting was miraculous in Jesse, immediate and miraculous. And what I thought, because this person is in my circle of influence, and my first thought was, hey, you know, why wasn't my non-judgmental ears, you know, why weren't my non-judgmental ears enough? And so, but I was glad, because once I started focusing in that way, what I understood was that it was enough. It was enough to get Jesse to a place where he was willing to go and take that extra step. So again, the power of non-judgment, seen in very close view, very much in my view, seeing the power that non-judgment has. So this reading that I selected today from Luke chapter 6, talks about, and actually the Bible version of Luke chapter 6 talks specifically about the moat. And it also talks about the Pharisees, the laws that were talked about here. But in the Bible version of Luke chapter 6, it talks about the moat, in looking at the moat in someone else's eye and not seeing the log in your own eye. All right. Again, judgment. This is a form of judgment, a big form of judgment, actually. And then also another Bible verse was about that speck, looking at the speck in your eye, or a speck in another's, and not seeing that big blob in your own eye, right? We're talking about judgment. We're talking about judgment. And so once I began to see and experience the power of non-judgment, and again, when I was reflecting on my experience here at Awakening Together, that non-judgmental space that's created here, that Regina and Reverend Jacqueline and all of the other leaders in this organization have created, is one of non-judgment. And that is a space where people can grow and learn. And that is also required on this path of awakening. If we are, if that's our goal, and we're talking true desire now, I do want to talk a bit about true desire. Because again, when I first started at Awakening Together, and we were looking, and I was learning about true desires, what that was, and how it was important, Michael Langford says that until the desire to awaken is strong enough in you, that it, like a person being held underwater, that kind of strong, you know, the way a person fights to get out from underwater when they're drowning, that's the level of strength that has to be poured into your desire to awaken. And so when I initially set this bar for my desire, I was thinking, okay, I want to love everybody, and I had this elaborate desire that I wanted to see accomplished. And it's not that that's not my desire. Still, my desire is still to love people. However, I'm much more clear now that in order for me to get to a point where I'm loving people as they are, I have to let go of non-judgment. And so now that desire has become more crystallized, if you will, to be, in liberation. I want to be liberated from anything that prevents me from interacting with another being, right? In being fully present and being fully loving and being that non-judgmental space that many people need in order to heal, including us. right? We also need that non-judgmental space to be just as we are, to go through and experience exactly what we need to experience. And this reading today talks about interpretations, how we assume and we separate from one another through these interpretations. These interpretations are not knowledge. They're not coming from a place of wholeness. They're not reflective of who you truly are, nor are they reflective of who someone else truly is. And what I've learned and what I've come to understand is that until I feel okay on the inside, it's difficult for me not to judge someone else, right? So the lens always has to come back on me, because I have to, if I'm judging someone else, then obviously I'm not okay somewhere inside. So there's something going on inside of me that's causing me to project that outwards and to judge other people based on whatever else they have going on, right? So it has to come back to the okayness, the wholeness that exists within myself, right? And if I'm in that place of wholeness, if I'm resting in that place of wholeness as often and as frequently as I can, then when those opportunities come up to judge, because they will come up, we don't have to go looking for our stuff. We don't have to go saying, oh, well, today I'm going to work on being a nicer person, and the moment you say that, an opportunity is going to present itself to you to not be a nice person, right? You're going to have to practice what you preach when it comes down to it, So like I said, these interpretations that we have are not knowledge. They're not coming from a place of wholeness. And once we begin to see that and work through those judgments, and it really does start with working on not being okay, right? Because whatever you're judging, whatever we're judging someone else for, right? It's like saying someone is drowning and because they're drowning over there, instead of throwing them a life jacket, we're going to press them down harder into the water, right? That's not what we want to do. That's not what we're here to do, and that's not in alignment with who we truly are. So again, these interpretations that we have are coming from our own internal not okayness, right? And that gets projected outward, and there we are, judging the other and also being split off from the other. So one thing that's helped me to stay in this frame of thinking, and again, the more you practice with it, the more I notice it happening on its own. Like I don't have to think about certain things anymore or talking a certain way anymore. It's natural. It's a natural part of who I am, and I accept that. All right. So one of the things that I've been working with, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about, this whole idea of non-judgment, how truly powerful and healing this is and can be. And so one way that helped me was I was thinking, and then the words perfect alignment, that prevails it all. And so I thought, okay, perfect alignment prevails, PAP, perfect alignment prevails, right? And it does, no matter what's going on. And again, going back to the top of my talk here, when I was talking about coming into this reading today, talking about this reading today, trusting that everything is going to be exactly how it should be, because we're really not in control of anything. We're not controlling outcomes. And that's what I meant when I talked about selecting a reader for today, letting go a little bit. And letting go is really critical on the awakening path. In fact, I practice 30-minute blocks of just letting go of whatever comes up. Just whatever it is, just let it go. Whatever it is, just let it go. because that letting go, the ability to let go, is critical in this process of awakening. You have to be able to see it and experience it and still let it go. All right. So going back to the selection of the reader for today, there was no desire to control that outcome. I had no desire that my readers show up and look or be or do a certain thing or act a certain way. And as you let go more and more, you let go of the need to have certainty, to know what that outcome is going to be, because that's what often causes the unrest, right? That's what causes us to feel this sense of discomfort internally, is that we don't know how things are going to play out. And that letting go, the ability to let go when you don't know, will help you to stay in a peaceful place. It does for me. So again, PAP, I've been papping everything. You know, if the opportunity comes up to judge, I just go PAP, 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 PAP. And I know what that means. See? I know that that means that perfect alignment prevails. And that means that no matter what I see, no matter what I experience, no matter what's going on, and I mean no matter what's going on, that one power, that divine, perfect, absolutely beautiful one power, all right? That one power is going to balance it out. It's going to make sure that everyone is where they need to be. Everything is where it needs to be. That every outcome is exactly as it should be, right? We assume nothing. Because if we start saying that this needs to be this way and that needs to be this way and that person needs to be this way, then what we're saying, we're pushing against all of reality. We're pushing against the one power that rules it all. The same power that causes that sun to rise out there, the grass to grow, the birds to fly, and the fish to swim. That same power is fully operational right here, right now, in my existence, in your existence. So when I pap something, that's what I'm saying. In one word, pap, I'm saying perfect alignment will prevail here. I don't care if it's a person or an experience. Perfect alignment will prevail. And I have to believe in perfect alignment. I have to know that without a doubt, what I'm saying about this alignment out here is going to be. If you just sit back and take your hands off the wheel, which is, I was watching the show the other day, and this pilot was in an air crash, and he was his plane crashed, and he said the first thing that he did instinctively was took his hands off of the wheel. Instinctively, he knew. That's because the internal part knows that everything is whatever's gonna happen here is gonna happen, right? And who am I? Who are you to change what the whole one power is doing? Right? We can work with this one power. We work in conjunction with this one power. We don't work against it, because we know what we resist persists. So we work with this one power to allow it to accept all, right? And the true desire for me is that liberation from anything that would seek to annihilate that belief that there's only one power. That power is perfect and it's papped. Perfect alignment prevails every time without question. And so this is the trajectory that my thoughts and my awakening is taking, right? So as I move through with this newfound, because again, it comes in layers, right? I talked about this at my last sharing. I talked about the fact that resist nothing, right? I talked about resist nothing and how for a moment that sounded really good. I understood it intellectually, but there was no being. There was no direct experience that I could resist nothing without feeling the emotions that come with resisting nothing. So I'm now in this place where I can resist nothing without having to feel those yucky feelings inside, like, oh, I just said that, but it feels so horrible in here. It doesn't feel like I'm not resisting. It doesn't feel like I'm not, like I am accepting all. It feels like I'm pissed still. That's what it feels like. And so getting to that place where I can truly say, pat, 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 and keep going. Because enough unraveling has occurred that I know that this one power will take care. I knew when I select Helena, she was the right person. She was the right one because that's who I selected. And it's that way with everything. And I see somebody making a comment there. It's PAP. Perfect alignment prevails. PAP. So I knew that was going to work out. And that's how I try to live my life at all times, knowing that no matter what the outcome, it's papped. It's perfect. Yes. And rest, accept, and trust. Exactly that. So we're put in rest. Yes, you're absolutely right. Rest, accept, and trust is absolutely that's the same principle. It's identical to rest, accept, and trust. However, if I go rat, that doesn't sound quite as hype. It's pap for me. You know what I mean? I need something that motivates me and rest, accept, and trust. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I've been with Awakening Together for since 2016, I think Reverend Jacqueline put in there, and rest, accept, and trust was one of the very first foundational principles that I learned. But again, I learned it from a place that would not allow for the integration and the experience of rest, accept, and trust. I knew what it meant intellectually, and still today, I, would use that, and rest, accept, and trust is the exact same thing. You're resting, you're accepting what is, and you're trusting what's happening. It's the exact same thing. It's semantics is what I'm talking. It's semantics, all right? So, these interpretations that we have, that we create based on what we see in our external experience, that is where the focus has to be. And then our true desire, again, has to be one that is I'm so resolute in the fact that I want liberation from this. I do not want to live a life where every little thing that comes up, I'm rolling with the waves and I'm upset and I'm thrown off my square. I don't want that kind of life. So I'm pretty hell bent on making sure that I'm letting go when I need to let go, that I'm accepting when I need to accept, that I'm trusting when I need to trust, which is all the time, and I'm resting in the truth. Rest, accept, trust, perfect alignment prevails. It's all the same thing. At the end of the day, there's really ever only been one message, just like there's ever only really one power, and that one message has always been that we're not separate from one another. We're one with the Creator that makes all of this stuff happen, and we can co-create. We can work in conjunction, in alignment with that one power to live the kind of life that we all want. We all want joy. We all want peace. We all want a life of comfort, right? And that gets into also the clinging and the rejecting piece, There has to be a balance in everything. We can't just cling on to all of the good times and then ward off all the bad times, We have to be okay no matter what time we're in. If we're in the land of milk and honey, we can be okay. If we're in the dark night of the soul, we can still be okay. And that's what I've learned. And that's what I continue to learn on this journey here with Awakening Together. Now, I feel complete with what I wanted to share today. I do want to ask Sina to play a song. And during this song, I want us to practice letting go just for this few minutes, anything that comes up. In fact, let me throw a monkey wrench in there. Don't think about the pink elephant, all right? Practice letting go of the thought of the pink elephant. That's what this is about. Letting go. The better we get at letting go of things, the better chances we have for living in this space of non-judgment, which is the space of love, right? All of us know that that's what love really is. It's non-judgment, acceptance of what is. All right. So I'm going to release the mic. Also, now is the time if you want to make a donation to Awakening Together. Sina's going to add a link to our room here for you to go out and make a donation. Those donations are extremely helpful to the evolution of Awakening Together. So please make your donations if you are inclined to do so. And also, please practice letting go while we listen to this closing song.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Gloria. That was brilliant. I'm certain that I'm not the only one feeling that. It was very inspiring. We always appreciate that you come and share a weekly gathering with us. What I want to say, one thing that I just want to repeat that you said, but I think it's really important for all of us, is you talked about how your journey over these years with Awakening Together allowed you to grow and have your own inner realizations because it's a space of non-judgment. And I just think that's critical. We actually did a lot of work when we originally started Awakening Together. We inherited ACIM Gather, and we built our platform off of that platform. And that was not a platform of non-judgment. And in fact, I personally, believe it or not, thrived through the judgment. When I was learning to teach in ACIM Gather, as I was teaching, people were typing in all this stuff about what a fake I was. And I don't even remember what all they typed. My focus was to be aware of the judgment against me as I taught, let it go as I taught, and stay with the flow as I taught. And that was incredible for me. But I also knew, in spite of the fact that I thrived through letting go of the judgment as I taught, I also knew intuitively when we started Awakening Together that most people would not be able to thrive in that same environment. That most people needed the exact opposite of that in order to thrive. They needed non-judgment. And so as we created Awakening Together, it even felt sometimes like fighting some battles with some people who wanted to, maintain the judgment. And this is why we created etiquette. This is why we have a sanctuary director. And so it was just really, for me personally, it was very rewarding to hear that environment that I worked so hard to create did what I intuitively knew, at least for one person, that it was meant to do. So I want to say thank you to you for that feedback. Recently, I was asked if I get feedback on the work that I do, and surprisingly, I don't get a lot of feedback. I did receive Sina's card this weekend. Thank you, Sina. That was also feedback. For the most part, I just do what I intuitively feel to do, and I trust, like you said, PAP, I trust if I feel to do this and this is what's to be done, and I don't look for feedback. But at the same time, it is nice to get the feedback. But I want to echo the feedback because it's an environment that we need to work to maintain. We need to maintain non-judgment, not only in the sanctuary, but the sanctuary isn't the only place where we interact. We interact on teams. We interact in a lot of ways. And if we want to allow people to grow, to have their own inner realizations, to awaken, we need to maintain that non-judgment. None of us here are perfect according to the mind's definition of perfect. And in fact, none of us ever will be perfect according to the mind's definition of perfect, because the mind is looking for the opportunity to judge. That's what keeps the mind going, is judgment. And so in spite of the appearance of non-perfection, we need to embrace the non-judgment that Gloria spoke about today. In fact, one thought that crossed my mind as Gloria was speaking is that the only way awakening together will continue to thrive is through non-judgment. And if we allow this to become a place of judgment, it will start to close down, right? It's how the ego will distort the organization as a whole. So Gloria, thank you so much for standing up and for holding the light, a light that is really important for all of us to bring into our hearts and to embrace. And again, it's not just the sanctuary, it's our teams, it's our working relationships. Non-judgment really needs to be a core value. And in fact, I think all of our core values kind of point to that without saying it directly. But it needs to be a core value of who we are, because without it, we will not continue to thrive. In fact, I don't think we'll even survive. Thank you, Gloria.
And thank you, Regina. Thank you so much for those kind words. I do want to say that was also half in motion, that perfect alignment prevails, that you got the judgment you needed, and I didn't get the judgment because it would not have helped me. That speaks to exactly that perfect alignment is always going to prevail, no matter what it looks like. It's all good. All right. Thanks again. It was a pleasure to be here today.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.